amazing Australians and the story of their lives. You're tuned to Lots to Chat About with Rosemary Peterswald.
Hello and welcome, listeners. Today my guests are Peter Flynn, the founder of the Amanda Flynn Foundation, and Greg McGann, the Senior Manager of the Young Adult and Mental Health Services of the Amanda Flynn Health Unit at the Mater in Brisbane. Peter established the Amanda Flynn Foundation in honour of his beautiful late daughter Amanda. Over the years, it has provided grants to not-for-profit organisations with the aim of improving the mental health of young Queenslanders. Today, the Amanda Flynn Foundation has partnered with Mater Hospital to open the Amanda Flynn Clinic as part of a new emotional health unit at the Mater, which Greg McGann is the senior manager. The clinic is an inpatient facility catering to young people from 16 to 25 years of age who live with mental health issues, including depression and anxiety. It is the only private inpatient mental health facility in Queensland that caters specifically for people of that age. I'm sure that you, our listeners, would all agree with me that Peter should be congratulated for founding such an amazing institution. So first of all, I'm going to welcome Peter, as we only have facilities to talk to one person at a time. And then later we'll talk to Greg. So welcome, Peter.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. So tell us, Peter, what inspired you to start the Amanda Flynn Foundation?
Unfortunately, my only daughter suicided when she was 27 years of age. The unfortunate part about it all is that she gave no real indication that she was suicidal. Then she had a normal life. She was going to QUT and had a number of friends. But unfortunately for us, my wife and myself, the wife that I was married to then, we sent her to boarding school to try and help to give her a new impetus to life. And she didn't really like it. And unfortunately, I think that's where the whole thing started. She was quite miserable in Toowoomba. You know what the weather's like anyway in Toowoomba. And she wanted to come home all the time. So at the finish of grade 12, she came home. She went to QUT and started doing a course there. But there was absolutely no identification that she was feeling very, very, very low. And I think that's one of the things that is very hard to pick up in young people. They always put on a brave front. So unfortunately, when she killed herself, I arrived at the house and to pick her up to go and have a look at some of the horses we had on a Sunday morning. And when I got to the door, her little dog came out to greet me in the entry. And when I got in there, I could see she wasn't there. So I looked around the corner and she had killed herself. It was probably the most significant moment in my complete life. I wasn't prepared for it. I didn't pick up any of the symptoms. I thought that she was just a little girl that was a little bit misplaced, but it never occurred to me that she had depression. So I thought, my goodness me, what can I do as a businessman to help people like this along? So I started the Amanda Flynn Foundation with a reasonable capital, and we've built that up now to a $30 million capital. Now we give 5% of that away to charities that are in our field, but now we're going to concentrate with our facility at the Mater. We are present in the hospital at the Mater in a ward there, and it's quite good, but we're now going to build a new facility which has been designed in the Mater grounds, which will have its own entrance, etc., for people who are in any way appear to be suicidal.
Right.
And it's the only one that I know of in Australia, and but of course it has the wonderful Mater running it for us because it's a very specialised job. And
So Peter, my nephew Liam sadly took his own life as well.
I know,
and I just want to go back to what you've said a little while ago, is that it's almost impossible to pick somebody that is suffering from that amount of deep depression. I mean, you can possibly see some signs, but it is one of the hardest things. And the other thing is that it really just shatters the entire family, doesn't it, when somebody does that?
Completely rips the whole family apart.
Yes.
One of my sons went to Columbia University, and 6 months before he went, about 6 months, we went to see him off as a family, his brothers, etc. And when he was there, when we were seeing him off, he said to Amanda, "Well, we'll see you soon, Duds." That was her nickname, Duds, mainly because she was so damn untidy. She used to leave all her underclothes all over the house.
Oh.
And he said, "I'll see you soon, Duds, and you're going to come over to see me in America." And she said, "I hope so." I didn't pick that up straight away.
Right.
But I just didn't understand that she was very low in a mental sense. And it had, in fact, considered suicide then. It just didn't even enter my mind.
So how long after, sadly, that Amanda passed away, did you come up to
4 months.
with the idea of the Amanda Flynn
Oh,
Foundation?
no, after Amanda passed away, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I didn't know what to do. I went to a couple of hospitals to help them and give money to their foundations, but I really wanted to do something in Amanda's name. So fortunately, I came to the Mater and met Greg and a couple of other people there, and we started a number of years ago, about 4. And prior to that, of course, the Amanda Flynn charity was going, but at that point we were giving to other charities.
Right.
But I really wanted to put something in that she would be remembered for. It's all, of course, after the event, but at least it's something.
It's a wonderful, beautiful photo of Amanda that's actually on the webpage and on the other bits and pieces for the Amanda Flynn Foundation. She was obviously a beautiful girl, and I'm sure she would be so proud of the fact that you have set up this wonderful foundation, which is helping other people that are suffering as she suffered.
Yes, I think that's one of the most difficult things for younger people. They don't like sharing pain very easily. They seem to want to suffer, a lot of them, in silence. And the reason for that is because I think that they don't want to be thought of by their friends as somebody that's got some sort of ailment or something, and they just want to be part of the whole team. And I know that to be a fact with Amanda. She just wanted to be just a normal person, and they keep it to themselves until something happens where they make that decision that it's all too hard and they want to finish it. In my own case, of course, that came with my wife leaving our family, and then she moved to Melbourne, and she wasn't there for Amanda. She was a very good mum, mind you. I'm not saying anything against her, but I think that's when it all started. It's a tragedy, isn't it? But at least with the Mater, we're doing something about it, and hopefully we'll avoid that happening to other people.
Look, you certainly have, and sadly, taking your own life is the 4th leading cause of death in Australia between 15 to 29-year-olds. I myself have 5 grandchildren that fall within that range, so it's always something that is on your mind.
Yes.
And having the Amanda Flynn Foundation, where people can get help, and we'll talk to Greg later, if that's okay, as to how people make contact and the initial contact and what happens there.
As Greg, of course, will be wonderful to speak to, because that's his life.
Yes.
He's just the boss, and he knows an awful lot about it. And we're very happy that we're associated with he and the Mater in our new facility, which hopefully will be built in the next year or so. Unfortunately, hospitals cost quite a bit of money.
I would imagine they do.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
And so we just have a little way to go to be able to help substantially with them.
Oh, look, I think it's, as I said, it's a wonderful foundation, and you definitely are to be congratulated on doing that. And I'm sure so many people and so many of our listeners are so grateful to you. So Peter Flynn, who started and was the founder of the Amanda Flynn Foundation, we thank you very, very much for coming to chat to us. And we'll continue our chat with Greg in just one moment.
Thank you very much.
You're listening to Lots to Chat About. I'm Rosemary Peterswald, and my guests today are Peter Flynn and Greg McGann of the Amanda Flynn Emotional Health Unit. Now, we've just been talking to Peter, who set the Amanda Flynn Foundation up, and now we have Greg with us, very luckily, who can explain to us a little bit about the everyday running of the clinic. So welcome, Greg.
Thank you, Rosemary.
Now, what you've just told me as well, which is interesting, is that the Young Adult Centre is not just necessarily for mental illnesses. It's for many reasons for young adults to come to you.
Yeah, that's right. Back in about 2014, 2015, MARTA made the decision to specialise in treating young adults, so predominantly people who are 16 to 25. And we offer a range of services from looking after young people with chronic illnesses like diabetes and inflammatory bowel disease. We have a drug and alcohol service, which is a statewide service that is quite a large service. We also have a medical and surgical ward for young people, and we've really developed a specialist area for that age group, and the Amanda Flynn Clinic is the final piece to that puzzle.
How do people make the initial contact with you? If you've got somebody, and I'm going back actually now to somebody who might be depressed or have a mental issue, because that is part of the Amanda Flynn, but how do they make, you're at home and you think you need help, how do you make that initial, I can give out phone numbers and whatever, but how do you come to that within yourself, do you think, to make that initial contact?
I think it's often difficult for young people to identify that the problem's potentially getting a little bit out of hand and they need some help. Often family members will notice something's changed or something's shifted. Often the school might be worried and academic performance has dropped a little bit. Or the young person might just be withdrawing from friends and their social networks. So we do encourage people to speak to their school counsellor, to go to their GP, to go to some fantastic organisations like Headspace and Community Mental Health Services if they are feeling depressed or anxious. And those services then refer to us. But a young person can just go onto our website at the Emotional Health Unit.
I wondered about that. That's wonderful. They can just go on there themselves.
And they can just send us a query. They can just send us an email through and we'll help connect them up and tell them how to get a referral. There's a whole lot of frequently asked questions on there as well for young people about what the service is about.
Because often it's just that particular moment, isn't it? And I go back to our beautiful Liam, who decided to end his life. And, if you can probably get over that 5 or 10 minutes that you're feeling that and have somebody to talk to, it can make literally all the difference in the world, can't it?
Yeah, it can. And supporting someone through that really challenging time when they're highly distressed is an opportunity to engage with them and to then start to think about some plans for the future and how we might be able to help them.
And what's an average day like in the units there when somebody comes in to you, and what can they expect to happen?
Yeah, well, young people usually stay with us for about 2 to 3 weeks. And the ward or the unit is really structured around recovery and a focus on recovery. We really also work with young people about their strengths. While a young person might be presenting to us with depression or anxiety, we're really interested in understanding what are your strengths and how can we build your recovery around getting back to normal life. So we do young people participate in groups, and we do a lot of group therapy with other young people. We've got quite experienced social workers and psychologists and psychiatrists as part of our team. Young people will do some individual therapy or maybe even a bit of family therapy if there's something that needs to be worked on there.
Yes.
We may or may not start medication with a young person or change an existing medication. And towards the end of their admission, they'll often go home for a day or two just to practice some of the strategies they've learnt in hospital before they're discharged from hospital. We also have a day program as part of our treatment services. So some people step down from the inpatient setting into the day program, and some people don't need inpatient admissions. They might just come to our day program or our consulting suites and see a specialist.
Right. And it's very important that people are there with people of their own age, because I think well, certainly looking back in my days, not yours, but the look of you, it was a whole different ball game. And if you were suffering from mental illness or something, there was nothing like this that somebody could go to. You were admitted to an institution, and often with a lot of very old people as well, and rather than people of your own age, which is very important, isn't it?
And that was part of our thinking with the whole Young Adult Centre, is that young people's experience of the health services in general isn't particularly positive, and they are, even in a general hospital, in with a lot of older people. So we really did want to develop our services so young people could connect with each other and be with people their own age, so we could design programs that were appropriate for that 16 to 25-year-old cohort who do need programs tailored a little bit specifically for their age and the developmental stage.
And how do drugs play a role in all of this? Do you find that many young people that come to you do have a drug problem or have had a drug problem?
Yeah, we do see some young people who have had a drug problem or are using substances potentially in a harmful way. As I was saying before, we do have a statewide drug and alcohol service as well, so we're quite experienced in working with people with substance use problems. Our drug and alcohol service consult to the Amanda Flynn Clinic and will give us help and advice if we need that. But in general, we don't see a huge cohort of young people with drug and alcohol problems coming through the Amanda Flynn Clinic. It's more problems around eating issues, depression, anxiety, those sort of things.
And the other health issues that we've just sort of vaguely talked about, but as you say, it's a whole range, isn't it, of other issues that people might come to you with.
Yeah, we don't find that people present usually with one problem. I think what we're seeing increasingly...
One can lead to another as well, can't it?
Well, that's right. And increasingly what we're seeing in young people is they're presenting with complexity. They have a number of issues going on. And by the time they come to the Amanda Flynn Clinic, they've often sort of disconnected from school a bit, or their social networks are broken down, or they're feeling sort of frustrated in that they've been to multiple people to seek help.
Yes.
So they are often quite complex young people, and that's why they stay with us for a little while to really work to a recovery plan.
Ex-footballers and sports people that have been highly successful in their career, and then it suddenly just comes to a halt. They often find that very, very hard. And there's a tremendous amount, I think, of anxiety and mental illness in that sort of group of young people. Do you find that you have many of those that come to see you?
Yeah, we see a range of young people, and certainly there are that group of young people who are in high-performance type programs. They're often hardwired to get into that type of thing, and having a plan when you end that career is really important. And it can be a significant adjustment when you go from being quite successful in something to having to change your role, and your identity is built around that. And so it can be a challenge.
Do you help them to sort of come to terms with finding another role in life, something that's going to fill, because it's a huge, this day and age, a huge amount of time that goes into training for whether you're a swimming star or a footballer or tennis or whatever. And as I said, if that just suddenly comes to a halt, they probably need some guidance as to what to go into next.
We certainly work with the young person and their family around those types of issues. Obviously, that doesn't happen in hospital. That's a longer-term plan, and we link them up when they're discharged from hospital with people who can continue to have those conversations and support them in those areas.
And you say that the family is very involved with what you do. So did the family actually come into your clinic or do you have special family days, or how does that work?
Family obviously visit regularly and can come in every day to visit their young person. Young people go out for dinner with their families and have contact with their families while they're in hospital. We do want to get to know the family and understand what's happening for that family and that young person, because young people increasingly live at home longer these days.
Yes.
And the family often have a good insight into what's changed for that young person as well. The young person might not have noticed that their sleep patterns have changed or that their moods declined. So they can give us some really rich information about what's happening.
Yes. I think the typical example, sadly, is probably the teenager who spends most of their time in their bedroom and don't like to come out. They're on social media or whatever. It's very hard on the family, isn't it, to know how to reach out and to help somebody in that situation, because quite often they're regarded as the enemy, virtually.
Well, often, as people have become unwell, they do withdraw, and that's not unusual, and that can cause some tension in the relationships. So we do work with families around that type of thing, and if there have been some issues happening, we always work with them. It's interesting. Like, I think even when we were teenagers, we probably spent a lot of time in our bedroom and not with our family. So I don't think things have changed that much over times.
Right. But do you think social media has had quite a big impact on young adults' mental health?
Yeah, look, I think social media has a role. There's some very helpful parts of technology and social media as well. Young people have mindfulness apps on their phone, and they've got access to music to distract them, and they can get information about mental health services really quite easily now on their phones.
Yes.
So there's the pros and the cons that come with everything.
Do you have a wonderful success story that you can perhaps share with us? Have you had somebody that's come to you pretty desperate, but then has managed to go out into the world and live a really fruitful life?
Yeah, we had a lovely story yesterday of a gentleman who walked into the ward. His daughter had been discharged about 3 weeks ago. She had come to us after feeling very unsafe and being depressed, and he just walked into the ward and met with the charge nurse and said it was life-changing. He's never seen her doing so well. She's back at university. She's engaged with the family again, and that was really nice to hear.
Yes. Oh, isn't it's a wonderful and wonderful that he took the time to come and tell you.
Yeah, it's quite unexpected.
Yeah. So, Greg, how did you manage to, or how did you end up in this role? You're a nurse, you told me, originally.
Yes, I did mental health nursing in the late 80s and actually worked in one of those big institutions that you described earlier. That's where I did my nursing training, and I've seen that journey of institutions closing and moving towards more specialist mental health services, smaller services like the Amanda Flynn Clinic, community mental health. And I've run a few mental health units in Queensland for young people over the years in the public sector, and I was involved in setting up the Young Adult Health Centre at the Mater.
You must find it rewarding, but also it's probably not the easiest job in the world, is it?
Oh, look, I really enjoy working with young people. I think they're a terrific group in our community. They're fun. It's great to see young people get better and get their trajectory back on track.
Yes.
So I really enjoy it, and it's something I've been doing for a very long time, and I'm sure I'll be doing it for a long while yet.
Oh, well, that's terrific. But it's not just young people. There's also a tremendous amount of post-traumatic stress that comes, particularly if you've been in the armed forces or any of the forces, I should say, and been to Afghanistan or somewhere like that. And some of those people, of course, would fall into the age group of the range that we're talking about, but many don't. And there's a lot of chat, of course, about that they're not getting enough help when they come back from, and some of these people going to Afghanistan, they go 5, 6 or 7 times. And it's a huge mental stress, isn't it?
And trauma's an interesting thing. Some people are exposed to one instance of trauma, like a natural disaster, and then there's people who are exposed to multiple traumas, like a soldier that you've described. And then people who have been traumatised who don't get treatment, or they develop really complex trauma symptoms, their children can also develop that sort of intergenerational trauma that we hear about, with refugee populations and First Nation populations and children of veterans as well.
Right. My husband was in Vietnam, but he was a regular soldier, so he knew what he was in for in Vietnam, and he went there along with my brother. But there were many that didn't. They were conscripted, and they were only 18, as that song goes, or I'm only 19, and that changed their whole lives. Now, many of them did come back, and they have led a very normal life, but some of them haven't. And that's even in the age group that we're talking with now. Most of those are in their 70s or 80s.
Yeah, and that's right. And there's some good evidence that people that are exposed to multiple and complex traumas, particularly in that young age when your brain's still developing. Like, we know the adolescent brain doesn't really fully develop until about 25 now.
Right.
We know that can lead to changes in your thinking patterns, changes in your sensory profile.
Yes.
So the story that you're describing of Vietnam is it makes sense from a clinical
Yes.
perspective.
And there was very little help then. I remember actually being in New Guinea where my husband was posted, and when I arrived up there, the first Marie quarter I was given was actually next door to my husband had been sent straight out into the bush, so I was there with 2 daughters of my own. But the gentleman that was in the house next door with his family was obviously incredibly distressed, and you could hear it. He was angry, really, really angry. But I don't think there was any help much at all then.
No,
really,
and I
for
think
him or
that's
others.
that's well understood now that there wasn't a lot of help, and I think that's we saw a whole generation of people have poor mental health, maybe
Yes.
get into drugs and alcohol and different ways of coping with what had happened to them.
Canberra's now legalised a certain amount of drugs. Do you see that coming to Queensland at all, or other states? What do you think? And what are you able to say what you feel about that?
I don't know that Queensland's close to legalising cannabis at the moment, but there are some changes happening in the law around cautioning and warning people rather than charging them and trying to take a health response rather than a justice response. And so that has been a change in that area. I don't know if we'll ever be legalised in Queensland, but you can see what's happening around the Western world, in the States, in Canada, in different countries. Things are shifting, so we'll have to watch this space. I don't really have a strong opinion either way. I do worry about people driving with cannabis in their system. That can be particularly risky. But increasingly, the police can test for that nowadays too.
Well, I don't think it's just cannabis in Canberra. I think it's cocaine and as well that you're allowed to have a certain amount of. But look, it sounds as though it's a very positive future for people that are suffering. I know most people don't feel there is a positive future, but the foundation is a wonderful start, isn't it, to get yourself back on track again?
Yeah, and the Amanda Flynn Clinic was a great opportunity for us to partner with the Amanda Flynn Foundation. We're really happy that we've been able to get this up and running back in 2020.
Yes.
It's been a success. It's full today. We
really?
We
Oh, wow.
have 12 young people in 12 beds.
Yes.
So we... are really hopeful that this partnership can continue and we can do more things with it.
Oh, how wonderful. And it's terrific what Peter has done, isn't it, to get that?
Peter's been very generous. He cares deeply for people with mental health concerns, particularly young adults. He's great fun to work with. He's a character.
Yeah, I know that. He's a great
and we're very
friend
fortunate.
Of my brother's, yes,
Yeah.
which is terrific. Yeah, oh, that's wonderful. So I'll go back to saying thank you very, very much to Peter Flynn, because we appreciate so much that he's shared his thoughts, which is not easy, and with us. And Greg, thank you so much for your insight into the day-to-day life at the Amanda Flynn Clinic, or Emotional Health Unit, I suppose. That's the Amanda Flynn Emotional Health Unit, is that?
Yeah, Amanda Flynn Clinic's part of the broader Emotional Health Unit.
Right, okay. But look, it's been absolutely wonderful to have you both there. Can I just say, and Greg can correct me if I'm wrong, should anyone wish to contact the Amanda Flynn Emotional Health Unit, the phone number is 07 316 36102 or email ehu.private@marta.org.au. So again, thank you to Peter Flynn and Greg McGann. It was wonderful to have you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great friends and great chats. That was another Lots to Chat About with Rosemary Peterswald. Stay tuned next week for another amazing chat.